Senator Graham joins me now. Senator, thanks for being here. Good to see you tonight in Washington. So as you said there, the president and Secretary of State Pompeo have sort of carved out a space where they say, well, you know, looking at the evidence, it's not exactly clear that there was a direct link between MBS and this act.
It's crystal clear, beyond any doubt. This could not have happened without the Crown Prince knowing about it. We have a ton of intelligence that the people in charge of killing Mr. Khashoggi worked directly for the Crown Prince. His #1 go-to guy orchestrated the move. And the president's right about this. It is in our interest to have a relationship with Saudi Arabia. They've been a strategic ally since World War II. It's not in our interest to give the Crown Prince, who's 33, 34 years old, a pass for murder of an American resident with 3 American children, because then you're going to have open season on Americans everywhere. So I'm going to come down hard like a ton of bricks on the Crown Prince and try to salvage the relationship with Saudi Arabia.
Have you talked to the president since the briefing today? And is he changing his mind on any of this?
I don't know. The president is in a different spot. You know, he's the president of the United States. Congress has an independent obligation to look at these things. You know, every now and then Congress goes its own way. We did this with Bush on the Detainee Treatment Act. You know, Obama did not want to put sanctions on Iran, and the Congress said, yeah, we should. This is a situation where Congress will probably take a different view of it. We have to have the long view of things. Presidents come and go, and what I want to make sure of is if you're going to ally with the United States, if you're going to be our ally, you want to have access to our economy and buy our weapons, there's a certain price to be paid. You can't chop up a guy in a consulate, particularly who's an American resident, who's an opinion journalist for the Washington Post, and expect us to do nothing about it. So it's pretty simple for Saudi Arabia. If you want to keep this relationship, you've disrespected it, you need to repair it. The damage is being done by the Crown Prince, not by the United States. And if you want to fix it, you should do something about it.
So you got a couple of issues here. You have the arms sales, which the president has been very transparent. This is the most important thing to him in this relationship. And then you've got what's going on in Yemen and our support of Saudi Arabia there. What can the Senate do to block the president on those two things?
Well, number one, I'll take a backseat to no one when it comes to supporting Saudi Arabia in the past. I have stood up on the floor of the Senate time and time again advocating for the arms sales. Now I'm going to say we should suspend the arms sales until those responsible for Mr. Khashoggi's murder are held to account. This is a big change for me. Why? If we don't stop it now, it gets worse later. It's just not the killing of Mr. Khashoggi. The Crown Prince put an embargo on Qatar, an ally of the United States, where we had 14,000 troops and never told us about it. He put the Prime Minister of Lebanon under house arrest and got him to resign. He's put half his family in jail. He's been a wrecking ball when it comes to the Mideast in general. And I've had enough. And if we don't stop him now, it gets worse later. So I'm not going to support arms sales to somebody this unstable. What makes you believe he wouldn't take an American weapon system and give it to the Chinese? This guy's nuts.
You know, everybody thought he was a reformer.
I did too.
He had a pretty good relationship with Jared Kushner. The president made his very first trip to Saudi Arabia. So why do you think you all, and you know, everybody knows that, you know, there's a lot of bad actors and bad actions in the world. I mean, you look at right after Tiananmen Square, Brent Scowcroft was, you know, cheersing champagne with the leadership in China. So we overlook a lot of bad stuff in the world because we need to sometimes. But why is this so different for you?
That's so good. Okay, everybody in the world's watching, by the way. And when you sell weapons to somebody and when you let them have access to your economy and you treat them as a real ally, that's different than having a relationship with China, Iran, or Russia. They're not our allies. They're our foes. And sometimes you can only do so much. But when you get in America's orbit and when you want to associate yourself with America in a direct way, we can't ignore this because other people will see this as a green light to do that. What about other journalists? What about people saying, I don't like my government? And if you're an ally of the United States and we let somebody get chopped up in a consulate, then we're abandoning our values. So I'm a pretty practical guy. I introduced MBS 6 months ago in town as being the hope of the Mideast. Boy, was I wrong. So here's the way I feel about it. I was played. I was used.
Did you tell the president that you think he's been played on this?
Yes. Here's what I told.
What does he say about that?
Well, here's what I told the president. Name one president of the United States that's done more to reach out to Saudi Arabia. The first trip you took was to Saudi Arabia. You have created a relationship that's special, and this is the way you get repaid? Clearly, they don't respect you. They don't respect us. They feel like they can do anything and get away with it. Now's the time to come down hard. Now's the time to be the leader of the world and not accept this as just the way things are. I'm going to cut them off. I've gone from being this guy's biggest champion to being his biggest nightmare. And I would advise the president that people are sizing you up. The Iranians are looking at you. The Russians are looking at you. And this guy has basically disrespected us, you, and the nation and all of our values.
But you don't
if you let him get away with it, if you let him get away with this, Mr. President, then you're sending a signal that you're just about transactions. You're not somebody special. And the President of the United States needs to be somebody special.
Is there any indication that that this point that you're trying to make is getting through to the President in any way?
I like the President. He's done a great job with ISIS. He stood up to Iran. I like the fact that he opened the door to Saudi Arabia so we'd have a bulwark against Iran. But what I would caution the President is that Obama was weak in the eyes of our friends and our enemies. And in the Mideast, if you give this guy a pass after he disrespected you, you'll look weak, and you don't want to look weak. Right now, you've got to be strong. Everybody's watching.
So before you know it, we're going to be deep into 2020.
Yes.
And Joe Biden, the former vice president, was talking about how strongly positioned he believes he is for the next election. And here's what he had to say. I think I'm the most qualified person in the country to be president. The issues that we face as a country today are the issues that I've worked on my whole life. The plight of the middle class and foreign policy. You've known him a very long time. You've been in Washington a long time.
Right.
Is he the most formidable of the potential Democrat candidates?
I think he would be a tough opponent, but I think President Trump will win, because if you like what Biden has to offer, Clinton wouldn't have gotten beat because she was an extension of that kind of way of doing business. If you like looking weak throughout the world as Obama and Biden looked, if you like a stagnant economy, where it's a command and control economy and the wages are not growing, then go back that way. I'm not underestimating Joe Biden. I personally like him, but he's been wrong about every major foreign policy event. He was the biggest champion of the Iranian agreement, where we gave $150 billion to the Ayatollah. So I like Trump's chances, but don't take anything for granted. But I will say with this, without any doubt, the candidates on the Democratic side range from sort of crazy to just let me tell you how much I hate Trump. He's the one guy with actually some experience. So compared to Elizabeth Warren, he's the most qualified. But if you're looking for a president who is going to take the country in a new direction, he is absolutely your worst choice, because he'll take us backward.
All right, quick reminder before I let you go of the last round of elections and the animosity that grew between now President Trump and the Bush family.
Yeah.
That seems to be on pause as we all remember the 41st president of the United States. And I just want to show you an interesting moment that happened just a short time ago and get your reaction to this. Handshakes all around, and
here's my reaction.
A nice moment for these two couples.
I love Laura and W. He's a good man. I've tried to help President Trump. I really like him. From my point of view, this is a touching moment. The Republican Party needs to come together, and Kavanaugh brought us together. Kavanaugh was a Bush guy picked by Trump to be on the Supreme Court, and they tried to destroy him. And I hope Republicans remember, they just don't hate Trump. They hate us all. They hate conservatism on the far left. And to see these two families to shake hands and make amends is not only makes me feel good as an American, but particularly as a Republican. If we can come together and understand we have far more in common than we have in differences, President Trump is going to win big in 2020.
Senator Graham, thank you. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.